Hi. Just come out recently is the documentary film And We Go Green. Now, I've been into Formula E since the first race, so I've been waiting patiently and excitedly for this thing to come out for a while now, because this year got made, and then it sort of got spoken about for a little while, and then kind of just disappeared. I was like, is it going to get distributed or not? And eventually it's been on French TV the other day and it got released on Channel 4 and I finally get to watch it. So me and Essence Mahindrabad will be sitting down and we shall be checking it out and I shall give you my comments on it and thoughts on it afterwards. Cool. Let's enjoy this. Of the For the sake of the video, I won't be showing any footage from the film in the video itself. This is just probably about as stripped down a video as I've ever done. So, I'll be giving you a gist of the film, obviously. But, yeah, this is going to be pretty basic, to be honest. Anyway, hope you enjoy hearing about it. Thank you. Okay, so what did me and the bear learn that we didn't already know from that? Not too much, to be honest with you, because, as I say, I've been kind of watching it for a while. I also don't think it's necessarily going to attract any new fans exactly, because anyone who... It's a well-known fact that the racing in Formula E is pretty good. It's quite aggressive, it's quite street circuits, and they've got to be a bit shovey and pushy to get past. So it's quite exciting stuff. The racing itself has never been anyone's problem with the sport. I should point out, I like Formula E, I like racing documentaries, so this isn't going to be some like Film 2020 review of the film too much itself. I like the film, I'm not going to be finding too much in the way of fault with it. But I can't quite work out who it's aimed at. I know the whole sort of triumph and grow from adversity thing, but there's not that many films, I don't think, that sort of start off with the race going wrong and lights failing and generally things not working out. Obviously that then gets sorted out and it goes into a little bit of the history of where the idea for Formula E came from. And the other thing is, it's not... Your target audience is an adult racing audience. This isn't something you could show to a kid and to try and get them into it. Yeah, there's a lot of swearing in it. Definitely. So instantly you're looking at an audience which is adult audience and probably follow Formula E anyway and have a reasonable idea for just watching it of the various rivalries, personalities and what have you. But this film doesn't really have any interest in making our racing heroes necessarily more relatable or come across as being particularly nice. I think I've described it to someone before on Twitter as being a bit of a Watsonal documentary. It doesn't necessarily concentrate on trying to make the niceties of it come across. The characters, the drivers, it shows the darker, moodier, arrogant sometimes side of them. It doesn't wrap them up and try and portray them to be, these are our heroes and they're all great, wonderful people. It starts off by sort of talking about Jeb, for example, and how he's can be seen as quite grumpy. And throughout the whole thing, yeah. I mean, we got Jev's autograph once, and fair play for him to doing it. He's happily standing there with Ayrton getting it. So he'll put on a professional face and he'll be a nice guy, and he probably catch him in at the right moment. He probably is a really nice guy. I don't know him personally, but he's portrayed in this, and as Lucas Degrassi described him as being the most Frenchman he's ever met. He actually said that may say a lot about him. So get from that what you will. And that's kind of the theme with it. It plays on rivalries, it plays on random personalities and the differences between the various drivers, and it shows that the series is still a series which is growing and it's trying to be different. One of the things I loved about the documentary is the fact it's got Hazel Southwell in it, who I feel and I find is a very raw, impassioned, left of centre journalist. She's a very exciting, vibrant character, and sort of in the way she writes and the way she talks about things, whether it's on Twitter and blogs or whatever else, or in the programme itself. And it's sort of almost like, Formulary have tried to be different because they're new. They haven't got any of the preconceived, history or whatever else that they're supposed to measure up to. They're a new series. They can write their own rules. They don't have to pander to previous expectations based on, 10 years ago they were doing X, Y, and Z. So they can be fresher. And as I say, people like Hazel play into that really well. And it's important in it as well that they talk about how the technology works to a certain extent, because that's the main thing with Formula E is trying to they're trying to present and promote newer technologies, newer ideas, and obviously they have to sort of show the backdrop to some of that and how it's progressed and how the new cars they've got in season 5, they don't have to swap cars halfway through. The batteries are powerful enough to see them the whole race, and because actually in terms of the motors and whatever, there's been a definite performance advantage as well, and they just look like sort of something out of Buck Rogers or something, which is, for a sci-fi fan, it's kind of great. And some of it is obviously they go into the driver personalities, they talk about them as characters, their backgrounds, where they come from, digging into certain rivalries like, say, Nelson Piquet Jr., Lucas Degrassi. Those guys do not get on well. But within it, it also brings up things like safety aspects, like obviously Nelson Piquet Jr., Lucas Degrassi are Brazilian, so growing up they had been like worshipping, not worshipping, but one of the guys they'd have been looking at would have been Ayrton Senna. Obviously different from Nelson Piquet because he had his dad, but obviously very aware of Ayrton. And the effect that Ayrton's crash had on the world of racing in general. And then not long after that, and I don't know whether it's true in all versions because I've heard it wasn't, that the crashes weren't shown on the French television version, but they do show Ayrton's crash. And then not long after that, it's talking about Jev, who knew Jules Bianchi very well. And it then goes to show Jules Bianchi's crash, which apparently wasn't shown on the French version. And there is sort of a feeling like how necessary, obviously by all means talk about them, absolutely talk about them, it's completely understandable, but how necessary is it to put the crash footage in? So that's something which has caused a little bit of contention among people. Talking about the technologies, of course, it's quite a good advert for McLaren Technologies because they're the guys dealing with like the battery technology and stuff. So that's good for them. You know, obviously, especially at the moment with the hassle and the trouble they've been under and having to slash 1,200 jobs or what have you, anything which promotes them and shows their technology in a positive light has got to be good. The film follows the series through the entire season, so by the time you get to some further in races, like for instance, it's got the Rome E-Prix in there, and you know, Rome in Italy, the home of Ferrari, the home of Lamborghini, you know, the country that loves the supercar, you know, the passion, you know, it loves engines. And so they're sort of thinking, well, okay, if we can win here, if we can get a crowd in Italy to come to our race, then that's kind of mission successful. We're achieving stuff, you know, it's making a difference. We can see a difference if we can do this. How do we do this? So it turns out the best way to get a crowd in Italy, get a pope. Footage of them turning up at the Vatican meeting the Pope with a Formula E car. And it's just like, in Italy, that's a good way of selling yourself. Yeah, that's a good bit of marketing. Well done. But it worked, you know. It's like if something like the Catholic Church can be forward-thinking enough to look at Formula E, then it's interesting. Fair play to them. Building up towards the end of the season, I mean, it's talked about Andre Lotterer, the trouble he had adjusting to the cars in his first season, a little bit of bad luck or whatever else, but it shows him sort of becoming aggressive and feisty and more confident as the year goes on, which is great. And slowly the other contenders sort of fall by the wayside and feature kind of less and less in it to a certain extent, until you're just basically left with, you know, Sam Bird and Jeff fighting for the title. And it does play a little bit on the rivalry and history between them. Maybe more so than it should, I don't know. And for my part, I am a Sam fan, you know. I've been following his career since 2012. Met him a few times, albeit briefly, at WEC events, and he's, you know, great guy. He's always had loads of time for my little guy when we've met him, and I think he's just brilliant as a person. But yeah, him and Jeff don't vibe, or certainly haven't done. I think the second season when they were teammates at Virgin, some of it may well just be that Jeff was frustrated about losing his F1 seat, but the stories come out of, you know, Envision Virgin that year are not particularly harmonious, and in this one it plays on it, and you certainly see some of that. And obviously it helps if you're building a narrative to a film to have that kind of rivalry for the guys at the end or what have you. So that plays well. Overall, I say, I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm a racing fan. I like documentaries about racing. I like Formula E. So it was never going to be difficult for me to enjoy this film. You know, it's one I shall watch again probably at some point. So, yeah. I would suggest to anyone who has the time to watch it. If you're in Formula E, you're definitely going to want to watch it. Into Formula E, you're definitely going to want to watch it. If you're not into Formula E, if you're open-minded enough to give it a chance, then do so. Because, as I say, for the most part, my understanding of people is it's not the series itself, it's not the drivers, I think most people even think the shape of the current cars are pretty cool. The issues with the sound. and unfortunately there's nothing anyone can do about that. That just is what it is. So it's still a bit of a Marmite series. But if you've got the time and the opportunity, and you're not completely just no regarding the series, then I'd thoroughly recommend giving it a go. Anyway, I've waffled on for far too long. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.